Hello and welcome to the show. Now, I am a fan of racing in the lower classes when it comes to Forza. Some of the most fun versus the communities and just general racing that I've done is with, D-class cars, C-class cars. These vehicles often get some really close racing. And my personal weapon of choice in C-class tends to be the Holden Commodore. It's not the most powerful and not the quickest in a straight line, but it is fantastic through the turns and carry a huge amount of corner speed, and it is an excellent vehicle. My other car that I do quite like for C-Class, the Toyota 2000 GT, a bit more powerful than the Holden, a bit lighter than the Holden, a fantastically quick car in a straight line, not quite as good around the corners though. Both of these cars are, in Forza terms, relatively inexpensive. The Holden, the basic cost of the car are 36,000 credits. The Toyota is 80,000 credits. Yeah, okay, the Toyota is a little bit expensive, but in Forza terms, it's not too bad. However, I was wondering just how little money could I get away with building a competitive C-Class car? Could I build a car to run with the likes of this Toyota and with the Holden for less than 30,000 credits? Now, that is a pretty tight budget. That's 6,000 credits less than the Holden cost to buy just the standard car. So, yeah, I would have to pick my car carefully. Now, I could buy some of the cheapest cars in the game. About the cheapest you're going to get is a 12,000 credits. The Corolla is 7,000, but the rest of the vehicles, the cheapest you're going to get is 12,000, like this RX-7. However, you're very easy to fall into a trap. The RX-7 is down in E-Class. And you're going to have to spend a fair amount of money getting the PI up, getting the car up into C-Class, and you could well not quite have enough to get the car to be competitive. While yes, you can put lots of upgrades on the vehicle, that is likely to cost you more money. So the vehicle I settled for, a little bit of an interesting one. The Pontiac Firebird Trans Am 2002 model. Yes, I will admit, it is hideous. It is not a particularly pretty car. However, it does start off relatively cheap, 23,000 credits. Now, that does only give me 7,000 to play around with. However, the car is in C-Class, and more importantly, it's relatively powerful. 325 horsepower in this 350 foot-pounds of torque from standard. Now, that means I don't really have to do a huge amount to the engine. For a C-Class, that is more power than the Toyota, more power than the Holden. So for C-Class, that's pretty good going. However, just 7,000 credits to modify the car is not a huge amount. However, I did have a plan. You see, one of the most cost-effective upgrades is weight reduction. And the biggest problem with the Firebird is that it's relatively heavy. So, putting the weight reduction on the car got it right towards the top of C-Class. This Firebird is down to 2,830 pounds. Which, when you factor in the power-to-weight ratio, that's not too bad. Not quite as impressive, perhaps, as the Toyota. The Toyota's only 2,500 pounds, though. But it's only 300 pounds heavier than a 2000 GT. So, it's doing relatively well, and it's still got all of that power and all of that torque from the V8. The other upgrades, I can only get 2 more upgrades into the vehicle. It has got sport brakes and sport suspension. Couldn't get race ones in the car. That's the best compromise that I could do. Only 3 upgrades went into this car. In total, it comes to a cost of 28,000 credits. I've still got 2,000 credits left over, but it is at the top of C-Class. It's a C500 car, so I couldn't get the upgrade, like full up to race brakes as much as I'd like to. Couldn't do it to keep the PI balanced. So money-wise, I was surprised. It actually came out pretty well with this car. Next thing, though, of course, is how does the vehicle drive? The Holden and the Toyota both have got massive rear tyres, as bigger rear tyres as I can get on them. This one, couldn't afford it. The tyre width upgrade is normally the first thing that I'll go with cars. Can't do that on this. Admittedly, it doesn't have too bad a tyres to start. 275s on the rear. There is plenty of grip in this vehicle. No, it doesn't quite handle as well as the Commodore. I wasn't quite expecting it to. But it is very well behaved. I thought the car would be a little bit more uncooperative when it came to the hot lapping, but it actually fared very well. I took it around various circuits. I got it up to top 300, I think, at Long Beach. I could tend to get it into the top 1,000 at whichever circuit. Some tracks, Laguna Seca, it didn't really suit very well. Neither did it suit this Road America circuit. But other places, Long Beach, Hockenheim. Hockenheim, it was 0.2 of a second down on the Commodore. That's some impressive going from a car that has just 3 upgrades. There's no room for tuning on this vehicle either. Having messed about with some hot lapping, seeing that the times were relatively impressive for this car, I took it to some online races to see how it would fare against a random selection of vehicles. Of course, your finishing position in these is a lot down to luck, about how well do you avoid the chaos at the start of the race, where does the game put you on the grid. So I wasn't really interested in finishing positions. I was interested in seeing what cars I could compete with, what cars were I overtaking, was I having to defend from everything, and sort of how fastest laps would go. Up here at Silverstone, I found myself racing with a Honda S2000. S2000s are very quick cars in this sort of class. However, I managed to hold it around the outside. That is a fast corner. To be holding it around the outside in the Firebird, managed to put the Honda under so much pressure. He just runs a tad wide in towards this final corner here at Silverstone, and I can get the move done. I think this was on the final lap of Silverstone. That was for 3rd place. The S2000s are bloody good cars. Gets beaten by the Firebird. I was only a fraction off the lap times being set by some Civics up ahead. Now the 97 Civic in C-Class is an incredibly quick car, these ones. The Firebird really wasn't that far behind. We went to Lime Rock. Now Lime Rock is a very twisty circuit, this one. You need a good handling car to go quickly at Lime Rock. And I was finding myself fighting with one of these Civics. Again, there were some shenanigans at the start. I fell back, then made up a bunch of positions. Everyone crashed into one another, and I ended up spending most of the race here battling with the Civic. Yes, through the corners, the Civic was still a little bit quicker. He goes around the outside of a turn, so that's an impressive manoeuvre to make that one stick. However, we come to an acceleration zone, and the Firebird is right back into it as I try to get myself to the inside for the next corner. Wasn't quite brave enough. There's some lagged out ghost cars around. The fun of Forza replays. I went to the inside. I couldn't quite make the manoeuvre stick at that time. I wasn't quite sure just how far I could lean on the car through that corner. After all, this was only, I think this was like about the 3rd lap I'd done, 4th lap I'd done around this track with this car. So, I wasn't quite 100% on it at that point. And, I want to make sure I gave the Civic some space on the outside. So I didn't quite hold on to it then. But again, I'm catching all the way down towards turn 1. Thought about having a big go up the inside. I had to sort of hastily back out of it. Made a bit of a mess of the line through that corner. But it was competing with these Civics, etc. After that mistake, I was starting to I kept the gap roughly just about where it was. The Civic was battling with an Integra coming towards the end, and was slowed around the final corner. I have the acceleration to pounce. He tried to defend, but it wasn't going to be enough to stop the Firebird, so I would beat him to the position. I think it's about 5th place in this race. Again, both of us, I think we both got the fastest laps at the track. Remember, that's a handling circuit that I was racing against a Honda Civic at with this 28,000 credit Firebird. That's some good going. And from Lime Rock, the next track we went to was Daytona. Daytona is very much the realm of the speed cars around here. Yes, there are some sections that you need to worry about. Some moron in a Subaru has a crash. There are some corners, you need to be able to drive your car around, but because of the length of the back straights, the bank corners and so on, a car with a huge amount of power does tend to be fairly dominant here. You can see there is an older Camaro or Firebird that was a very fast car here in a straight line. Absolute horrible vehicle through the corners. My Firebird, it wasn't that much slower. It wasn't that much slower than the straight line speed cars when it came to the long straights. And it was much nicer through the corners of both the cars that were behind me. Ended up going wide into turn 1. The Camaro the Firebird was so much more manageable through the turns. I can catch up so quickly to the Capri ahead of me. Yes, the Ford may be technically a little bit faster, but it wasn't enough to simply come breezing back past me as soon as it got to the straights. The Pontiac could hold its own down there. I think that's perhaps what impressed me most about this car. It's a fantastic overall vehicle. You can go to any track and it'll be pretty good. You can go to a track with ridiculously long straights and it won't bother the Firebird. It's got enough speed to be competitive there, but if the track does get pretty twisty, if it does get pretty nasty, it's still a good enough, still a stable enough car not to have a problem. Again, here at Daytona, I came across a Civic. You know, they're much more at home on the twisty tracks, and yeah, it doesn't really stand much of a chance against the Firebird. Much like the sort of pure straight line speed cars could start catching me on the straights, but would struggle through the corners. I could just about keep up with the Civic through the corners, and then we go flying past it on the straights. A relatively simple pass for me down here. We are coming up to it. It's a horrible chicane, this this next one, to make sure that you get it right, especially because often you'll have such a ridiculously fast car coming into this section. The Civic closes a tiny bit through here, and then immediately we're back on the power, and the Firebird is going to pull away from the Honda. The Civic can't do anything about the Firebird around this track. That was me getting up into second place. The eventual victor was a crazy powerful Mustang, only a second a lap quicker than my Firebird. So almost a pure straight line speed car was only a second a lap quicker than me around here, because I could make up the time through the corners. We would next head to Bathurst, up against another one of the crazy powerful speed Mustangs. The Firebird, of course, as we come up towards the top of the hill. The Firebird's so much nicer through here. I get my nose to the inside. Was really not expecting to get my car past there. He gave me plenty of space on that part of the course. A scary place to get an overtake. I then get a big slide and out a little bit wide. Immediately throw everything away. Not quite ideal driving, really. On my part there, we see the Civic coming to rejoin us in the background as we fly down the hill. The Firebird is just so much better through here. I tried my very best to get a move. We ran out a bit of road, little tap on the wall. We all got through there safely. Of course, the Civic is catching up very, very quickly through these high-speed corners. Get a little bit of a nudge, but nothing the Firebird can't deal with. Then we come back out onto this back straight. Of course, both of us are far quicker than the Civic in the straight line. But the Mustang doesn't really drop me down here. It gradually is pulling away, and it will accelerate a little bit quicker. It's got more power, probably considerably lighter than my Firebird, but it's a hell of a lot more difficult to drive. He was having issues going through the chase, has to brake so much. He was on the brakes far earlier than I was, just can't pull it up at the end of the straight, and the Firebird, much easier to drive. We can just breeze past him there. Now, I do have to be careful, because sort of the final couple of corners is a relatively fast part of the track, and then after turn one is another long straight, and I knew the Mustang was likely to be close when we came out of turn one, so it was kind of a case of try and be as neat and tidy as I can be through here. The Civic, again, just can't really hope to keep up with us down here, and we can get such a lead ahead of him. But by the time it does come to the corners, the Honda isn't fast enough to reel all of that gap back in to catch up towards my Firebird. Again, this one we are fighting over third place. I got bumped around I think me and the Mustang got bumped around at the start, and we got dropped a long way back. But yeah, again, coming down the straight, the Mustang gets himself to the inside. This is only be my second lap around this track with this car. May have outbraked myself a teensy bit. Went very, very wide, but I've still got enough grip. I can still carry the momentum to keep myself alongside this Mustang. Still going side by side between the walls at Bathurst, and I do get the Firebird past, and now we've got the fast twisty bits as we come over the top of the hill, and the Mustang doesn't stand a hope. It can't keep up with the Firebird, and it's only a fraction faster than it in a straight line. Even me doing stupid stuff at the top of the hill, I got it very out of shape coming up there, trying to get a bit too brave. I'm still quicker than the Mustang through here. Now the Mustang has got to worry about getting passed by a Civic as well. So the Firebird had really impressed me. I gotta say, it's a very, very solid C-Class car. It's a fantastic overall vehicle. Okay, yeah, at Daytona it is still going to get beaten potentially by the utter power-hungry monsters, but then if they go to a track with any corners, it will annihilate them, because it's still pretty competitive around the tight, twisty sections. I wasn't expecting that from the Firebird. I thought it was going to be, yeah, it'd have decent acceleration, probably decent top speed. I didn't expect it to be able to almost hold on to some Civics, this kind of traditional handling cars. And it could. It really, really could. I am, very, very impressed. For 28,000 credits, this is a really rather fine race car. It's a couple of tenths down on the Commodore at a few tracks. I think I do still perhaps prefer the Commodore as a C-Class vehicle. However, for a budget for less than 30,000 credits, yes, you can still be very competitive. It was not about finding a car to beat my Commodore or to beat my Toyota. This was a case of, can you be competitive with just 30,000 credits? And that is a pretty damn small budget for building a C-Class car. And the truth is, yeah, you can still be really very, very competitive with this Firebird. It'll run towards the front of public lobbies, often setting fastest laps, or if not, it was never very far off the cars. And, that included Civics, MX-5s and whatnot. It was never massively far off them. So, yeah, the budget race car, Firebird Trans Am, it might look absolutely hideous, but it is one hell of a race car. And, yeah, I would highly recommend it. I think it's a great overall, well-balanced and relatively easy car to drive quickly. However, that is it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.